our third, really. And you were talking about stories and how useful stories are through the process. And that's certainly what our schools are finding really useful. And that's what we'd love from you, if it's possible, is to have a story that takes us almost through a spiral that you're aware of, that a school has been on, and perhaps anchors each stage. So at scanning, they were doing this, or they were thinking that, it'd be great to have that kind of story if it's at all possible. I appreciate it's early.
Not a problem.
You go first.
You go ahead.
Well, we're going to come at this in two ways. I'm going to use the case studies from our schools, and just holding up, you can, on our, oh, you can't see that, on our website. So if you go to noie.ca, noie.ca, there's case studies of schools. And I'm just going to pull out one of them, but the case studies go back 4 or 5 years. And what we found sometimes helpful is to take one of those case studies and then share it and have people talk about it. And it was really gratifying for us to be in Barcelona a few years ago and to see a school, Evelyn Dickinson Elementary School, from the northern part of our province, a very small elementary school. The Barcelona team had downloaded the case study, they translated it in Catalan, and they were talking about what had happened in that school, and the focus was on social emotional learning. And then they were able to get in touch with the school. Like, we texted the school right away, and they were absolutely thrilled that their work was influencing the work in Barcelona, and for the kids to be part of the conversation. So anyway, that's how the case studies can be used, the formal case studies that
they pulled all the young people into the gym and had a celebration assembly in real time at the same time as the adults in Barcelona were discussing what they were learning. So it was a very, very big deal in the Zoom world.
Yeah. So I'll use a secondary example, and this is where students are involved in the spiral. So, and this is Sands Secondary School, and the teachers had been involved in Spiral's work for a couple of years, and they were using the language, the teachers were using the language just naturally. It was, scanning had become part of them, but the kids were hearing that language. And a couple of senior girls came to the principal at that time and said, we're seeing that the grade 8s, that some of them are really lonely, and we want to do something about it. So the kids had picked up the language, and they were scanning, and they came. And then they did a follow-up, and they found out, so this is the principal and the kids working together, that there were indeed a group of grade 8s, which is our first year of high school, who weren't connected socially, who didn't have anything to do on the weekend other than be on their devices, and that they didn't actually know how to hang out and be with each other. So they set up a process. So their focus was how to create a space in the school for socialization that wasn't influenced by social media and that was face-to-face. So that was their focus. So they did, the teachers now supporting these girls. So it was a senior student teacher team, really thought about what would kids like to do. They interviewed them and so on. And what they came up with was they wanted to learn how to play board games. And so on Friday afternoon, they turned the gym into like a playroom with games and with pizza and with structured opportunities for conversation, so the kids got to learn from each other. Their hunch was that because they had been so connected to their devices, that they actually didn't know how to play. And so just by teaching them some of that. And so they learned, and what they saw was, more increased in friendship, a greater sense of belonging, kids feeling more connected to each other. The discipline problems were diminished because kids were happier. And their checking was, that it made a difference. Where they've gone from there, because it's a spiral because it's never ending, is that they became more confident as a group of teachers and students working together. And then they tackled cyberbullying the next year. And then they dove into anti-racism work, and we've just got a publication that's come out about how students can use the spiral to address issues of serious concern in their school. So they went through all of the steps, and this new resource that we've got it sort of illustrates it through the kids' lens, which we think is really important. So those would be a couple that we would point you to.
Yeah, I think we sent 2 copies of this new document to Matt. So if you borrow one of them, we're very proud of this document because it does go very clearly through, because it's written as an actual notebook that young people can use, and we think it's beautifully produced. So have a look at that. I'm going to give you an elementary example. I'm going to have to change the name of the principal and call her Mary to protect, the innocent. But Mary was posted into a school where the staff hadn't learned anything new in about 35 years. We have a new curriculum, and we need to do well-being work, right? And it was close to the pandemic and during the pandemic. Anyway, she's probably the skilled practitioner of what she calls the no change theory of change, and that is to ask people to do something so small that they don't even know it's a change. And her goal was to get them doing a bit more teaching for thinking. So she used the 2 questions at the beginning. She started a scanning process, but she did it extremely gently and scaffolded in a really easy way so that nobody had a hard time with it. Used a bit of time at the staff meetings. And then the moment, like if a young person gave a good answer, she would take a photograph of the young person and put it in the hallway with the quote. And so she would just build from these micro moments. And she had a picture in her mind. They were using Ron Richards' thinking strategy. She was in her work, that if by the end of the year, every young person kind of had a learning smile on their face because they were learning something important. And if they could answer the question, if they could give a good answer to the what are you learning and why is it important, that they would have been a successful school. And lo and behold, in a year, she changed that staff to one from stagnation to liveliness and satisfaction in their work, because teachers do want to do a good job. It's not the teacher's fault that they were led by custodian type principals who just came in and blew the whistle and went out and saw the kids at recess, but didn't do anything about learning that is contemporary. And I think it was her skill. The coaching to your people should be pick something small that you can have success with it, and maybe save your bigger plans. What we have found is that when schools go through the process and take it seriously and have some fun for it, the second year you really get terrific benefits. Right. So I think knowing that and seeing that is helpful. But Mary's, we laughed so hard when we met her. Like a colleague said, you've got to meet these two colleagues, and we met over a glass of wine in Yaletown near our office, and we just laughed so hard because the no change theory of change. Some people are too ambitious and too huge in their vision of what should be, and it's really the nitty day-to-day. Does a kid feel a sense of belonging, and do they know actually what they're supposed to be learning? Not what they're supposed to be doing, but what they're learning, and are teachers expressing in clear ways. And she also offered, now you won't have many principals who will do this, she's very skilled, but she said, would it help if I come in and we team teach the beginning of the first period for 3 minutes, where we share with young people what it is that we're hoping that they will learn from the next half hour. And teachers usually would say yes, because and then she would do something and she would make a joke of it and take a photo and put it in the hall and got some momentum.
So on our website, there's case studies that we really encourage you to take a look at, and then there's another source that you can look at, and this is from it's Richmond School District, which there's about 40 schools in the district, and they've taken a serious focus on learning on the spirals for probably the last 5 or 6 years. And each of their school websites includes what they've done with the spiral and what they're doing and where they're at in the process. And one of them is Blair Elementary. I mean, I picked that just because their focus is on caring and thriving and well-being, and their vision is Blair cares, care for self, care for others, care for place. And I can email you the exact links if you want, but I think it's helpful to see that and see the action steps that they've taken and the specifics around that. And you can find in that district, they had pretty much a district-wide focus on social emotional learning and well-being. So there's lots of pretty good examples of what it looks like. So I think
Mary works in that district, so you'll have to figure out if you know what school she's at. Yeah, I have to meet her.
So that's so there's loads of different examples, and there's lots of ways in, and it really depends on the context and how you can create that sense of coherence. Because I think in places where there's a lot going on, you need to present this as a way of simplifying and focusing the energy, not diffusing it.
Yeah.